Welcome to the studio tonight. I hope that you can hear me okay and all systems are a go. Tonight we're going to be painting some color charts in watercolor. I should say one color chart. And this is a really valuable class for anyone. Actually, you could even do this sort of exercise with wash paint or acrylic or oil if you wanted to. And why do we do a color chart? Well, really because we need to know what colors our colors make. So it sometimes can be a long process, but it's a very important process for understanding how your colors work together, especially if you're new to watercolor. So I'm excited to get started with you and do that tonight. My name is Paige, if you're new here, and I am the Chief Pixel Pusher and Paintbrusher over at paigeweber.net and Gumption. And I do these classes on YouTube once a month, and they stick around for about a week usually, and then they're in my special group. So if you're interested in my group, go check out paigeweber.net and look at classes. Tonight we had a little bit of prep, and so my students have all the information to get started tonight. But for those of you who are new and watching this live or later, I will go over the format for this and we'll switch our camera up. If you are tuning in tonight and you are new here, go ahead and say hello in chat and tell me where you're tuning in from. Yeah, if you're old here, do the same. Most of you who are my students, I know who you are. So let's get right to it, and I'll switch up my camera and we will get started. This is kind of a long process, and I would say you're welcome to use any colors that you would like to use in this exercise. But I have some standard colors that might come in a standard kit that a watercolor artist might have. And then if you have some favorites, then you can use those too. So I'm going to switch over here. Let's get started. Okay, so you should be able to see my chart that I made, and I'll kind of explain this a little bit. Hopefully you can see this okay. That might be a little too zoomed in. But all of my colors that we're using tonight, or that I'm using for this exercise tonight, are ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, Hansa yellow, or lemon yellow. You could use a cad yellow medium, cad red, alizarin crimson. I wrote alizarin red, but alizarin crimson, quinacridone magenta, raw umber, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and turquoise tonight. And hello, Jean. It's nice to see that you are tuning in with us tonight. And it's snowing in Virginia. I think we need a little snow over here in Idaho, but that might be a conversation for another day. Okay, so as you can see, I might scoot this over a little bit and see if we can zoom in a little bit. All of the colors that I have over here, I have also listed up here at the top. And as you can see, I have extra room to add to this, but tonight I'm just going to use these base colors, and you can use whatever you want. That's what's beautiful about this color chart, is it's useful for anyone who is painting, and we all have different colors. We might have different brands, or, just different colors altogether. And this would really keep you straight. Hello, Laurel. I'm so glad that you're able to make it tonight too. I don't think we have done this in a class yet, so I'm super stoked. And a big happy birthday to Sam. Happy birthday, Sam. Okay, so let's get started. And I'll kind of walk you through this a little bit. This first color here is ultramarine blue, and this color here is ultramarine blue. So in this space, we're just going to put ultramarine blue. Then we'll move to phthalo and phthalo blue, and so on and so forth. So your main color will kind of go diagonally, and you'll kind of have two sides to this. So what we are going to do is we're going to mix about 50-50 of our colors. You'll understand as I get going, but maybe I'm mixing ultramarine with phthalo blue, 50-50. I'll put that in this square, and in this square. So you need to mix up enough to fill those squares. And some people, I have in the past done a chart where I've just cut it in half and done it this way, but I chose not to do that tonight. Also, you're going to need some kind of mixing receptacle and a brush. So these are usually what I use here. You can see my paints are here over on the side. And yeah, I like the porcelain container better. So I'll actually move my paints over here, and you can kind of see as I'm mixing. If you have questions, go ahead and throw them in chat right now before we get started. Also, you can't see it, but off camera, I have 2 receptacles of water. I've had these jars for, I don't know how many years, over 10 probably. But you're going to want 2 receptacles with clean water to get started. Okay, so I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger for me here, and let's start having fun. So ultramarine blue is my first color, and I'm just going to wet my paint a little bit here and get some ultramarine blue. Might need to add just a little bit of water, just enough so it has a nice consistency and moves really easily. I'm using a number 6 round brush for this exercise, so it should work pretty good. And where I have ultramarine blue here and ultramarine blue here, where they connect here, I'm just going to paint in a little bit of my ultramarine blue. And you may decide that you want to skip a square because the water, this paint will run into this paint if it's not dry. So for the sake of moving things along, I might skip over to my Hansa yellow color, which is a lemon color. So if you have a really cool kind of yellow here, we'll put it, you might be able to see it here off screen. Might need a little extra water. You may also choose to use one of your water receptacles for cool colors and one for warm colors. So here's my Hansa yellow or Hansa yellow, I'm not quite sure, and Hansa yellow here. And I'm going to fill in this square. Now, like I said earlier, this is an exercise that you can do with any kind of paint, you know, color mixing. And I highly recommend it. Sometimes it can feel a little tedious, but to start off the year this year, I felt like it might be really important for my students to be able to see how this has value for them, how their colors make specific colors, because I think that is really important. And it looks like Jan. Hello, Jan. I'm so glad that you could make it too tonight. So hopefully you're all ready and I'm not moving too fast for you guys. But yeah, let's make some color. So as I'm skipping, because I don't want my colors running together, my next color here is Cad Red. I don't have to do any mixing here. I can just dip my color. Oops, wrong paint there. I can dip my brush in a color and paint directly in this square. You'll notice as you do this exercise too, that some colors are more transparent, some colors are more opaque, some colors have some nice granulation. So it's a great way to observe your paint too. Each of these squares also is a 1/2 inch. When I made this, some of you may have seen the video that I did earlier today. And so that's how big these squares are. All right, I'm going to do quinacridone magenta. I don't use this color as much, but it's sort of like a fuchsia hot pink, not quite hot pink color, but it's really pretty. So you have kind of, this is on the cooler side of the spectrum, and that's why I wanted to include it. So I'm going quinacridone magenta, quinacridone magenta. You can see we're just skipping those squares. This is also kind of a fun sort of meditation, I think, a little bit on color, because you are just laying in color here. Okay, so I'm skipping down. The next one is burnt sienna. In my burnt sienna, so I will dip into my burnt sienna here. I need a little more water. Burnt sienna. All right. Much more browny orangey color. This is a great color. This chart will also help you figure out, you know, what makes grays, nice grays, or, you know, a really nice purple, those kinds of things. So if you haven't had a lot of color theory, this is a good exercise to do. And I threw in a phthalo turquoise tonight as well. I don't use this often, but this is a great color for like ocean scenes. So I'm going to put my phthalo turquoise here. Now, again, when you do this color chart, if you've just tuned in with us tonight, you're going to want to use the colors that you have. I've picked some pretty standard colors that might come in a kit that you would have. But definitely, you know, explore the colors that you have. Okay, so I'm going back up here and I'm just going to put in my phthalo blue. This is like a warmer blue than our ultramarine blue. So my phthalo lines up here. And because I've skipped these blocks, my other little blocks have dried, so there shouldn't be any running paint. I'm going to leave these in my palette because I'll be able to mix them together here in a moment. All right. And this can really show you the warmth and cool versions of these tones. So I'm going to hit my Cad Yellow Medium. This is a favorite of mine. This is sort of what I call egg yolk yellow. And here next to this Hansa yellow, you're going to see that it is a lot warmer. It's a warmer yellow. Really nice yellow. Okay. Alizarin crimson. I wrote alizarin red, but it's just alizarin crimson here. This is a really nice transparent color. It looks like my magenta may not be entirely dry, but hopefully we do not overlap here. All right. Now my goal tonight is to stay until we're done. Typically these classes last an hour, but we're going to see how we do tonight. I am going to skip this one because we have some wet paint here. So we'll just move down to yellow ochre. Turn this around here. So you'll see we'll be skipping around a little bit. And hopefully you are okay with that. This was sort of an afterthought, or I would have lined it up with my yellows, but you can see how it's a little bit different than both my yellows there. All right. Okay. I don't see that anybody's got any questions, but if you're tuning in, let me know where you're tuning in from. I'd love to know. All right, so I have a raw umber. I really like raw umber, and my students know I like to use mineral violet a lot, and I think they're very nice together. So my raw umber lines up here. It's kind of a nice earthy light color. All right. So this is great. These are all the colors that I'm going to use tonight in my color chart. So let's get to mixing. So first we have our phthalo blue and our ultramarine blue. So I'm going to go here over here, phthalo and ultramarine blue. I'm going to do 50-50 of these two, and I'll put it on either side of these blocks. So I have some phthalo here. It looks like these two are going to blend, but we'll kind of mix these together. I think I need to add a little bit more phthalo to this mixture. Now, one thing you'll notice with phthalo blue, it's a very powerful blue color. So this is a cross between the two. And consequently, I'll put it over on this other side too. All right. Now, because of, well, we'll just keep moving here, actually. So you might need to use your paper towels quite a bit in this venture as well, but we'll see how we do here. So first I'm going to take a little bit of Hansa yellow. Because if I dip into my blue and then dip into my yellow, I'm going to have kind of a mess here. And I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue. I'm going to add just, I guess, just a little more yellow in there. This makes a really nice green. So this is my Hansa combo. I'm going to try not to touch the square above just because it will bleed. But here we're making a green. And we'll just kind of move down the line. So I'll get a little bit more of my ultramarine blue. And then my cad yellow. So I got to clean off my brush. Go into my cad yellow here. And paint that in. I probably could do a little more yellow. If you feel like your mixture is just a little bit off, you're welcome to add more color to it. And I've kind of forgotten here, I need to be adding this color over on this side too, so that it runs, ultramarine blue is going to run all the way down here, and it's going to run all the way across. So I better not forget to do that here. And this would be, you know, a lot of artists keep these color charts in their studios and use them. So, you know, it's wise to have, oops, we have some bleeding here. It's wise to do this for yourself. You know, maybe you buy different paints at different times. You might need to have a color chart for each one. Now you'll want to be a little more careful than I was because my color bled a little bit, so. And I got a little bit too much ultramarine blue in there. This also allows you to kind of explore, you know, how much pigment you can use. Now you can see this one is a little bit darker than the other one that I did on the other side, and it just has more pigment there. So that is why. Okay, next I'm going to do Cad Red. A little Cad Red and ultramarine blue. And rinse out my brush. Get some Cad Blue. And you're going to have a nice purple. Oh, you're freezing in Michigan. It seems like we're having a cold spell here too. Try to stay warm out there, gray like gray. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us tonight. So you can see this is kind of an interesting purple color because of that Cad Red. And I'll go ahead and put this one up here too. And for a moment, I am just going to skip alizarin crimson here and go down to magenta because we have these two wet squares and I don't want them running together. So I'm going to hit my magenta. I have a little magenta here. I might add a little bit more to my palette here. And I'll get a little bit of ultramarine blue. Try to mix that 50-50. And this is a really pretty purple. So you can see the differences here between these pigments. We have a lot of nice granulation happening here. Ultramarine blue is really good for granulation. But it just gives you, you know, some different options. This also kind of shows that you don't have to have a ton of colors to create colors that you want. And I believe that if you have maybe, you know, 2 blues, 2 yellows, 2 reds. Tonight we actually have 3 kind of red colored tones, but you can make any color that you can think of with just a few basic colors. All right, moving on down. Still got some wet paint here, so I'll move down to burnt sienna. I have a little burnt sienna mixed here. And we'll mix it with our ultramarine blue because we're still on our ultramarine blue here. And you'll notice that this gives us a nice gray color. It's kind of a gray brown color. So if you're trying to figure out, if we put a little more blue in there, it'd be a little more gray. If you're trying to figure out how to mix your own browns, this is a way you can do it, a brown or a gray. And I really, you know, challenge you to play with paint mixtures to see, you know, what kind of colors you can mix with them, because it's pretty freeing to be able to understand, you know, how color mixes and how much power you have. It's free. It's pretty freeing. Hey, thanks for tuning in today, Gray. Appreciate it. Okay, moving right along. We are going to go down to the turquoise because we can. So again, this is phthalo turquoise. This is also like phthalo blue. It's very pigmented. So I'm going to have to match that equally with my ultramarine blue. All right. This is like a blue-green. Still pretty turquoise feeling. But you can see the difference here between this color and that color that it normally is and our ultramarine blue. So I'm going to have to paint this up here too. And we'll just let that dry there. Should be some really nice granulation, I think, there. Okay, so I'm going to pop up to our alizarin crimson here. And this was a color that I always used in college. It's really nice, deep, dark, kind of red, blood red. I'm not sure. It's more crimsony, as the name would allude to. Let's add a little ultramarine blue here. And we'll make a really nice purple. This is very similar to the purple color that I use called mineral violet. And depending on how much blue and how much red goes into it determines how cool or warm it is. So we'll just plug this in here. It feels very similar to my cad red color here, but it will be transparent because both of these colors that we mixed are transparent colors, where cad red is a little bit more opaque. Hopefully you all are still kind of hanging in there with me. We are kind of trying to move sort of fast, so hopefully not too fast. Okay, so we have two more in our ultramarine blue lineup, so I'm going to hit raw umber. Raw umber is a really nice color to have in your arsenal. We'll add a little bit of ultramarine blue, about 50%, as much as we can here. Oops, maybe that is a little too much there. We'll see. And this kind of also is a gray brown. So we'll see how, you know, and in some light it looks a little green here too. So you could use it as a muted kind of green if you're doing landscape painting maybe. Maybe, let's see, can you see this? I may have to scoot over a little bit. There you can kind of see it on the screen. It'll be nice when it dries. Raw umber and ultramarine blue. Okay. So we'll hit our yellow ochre. Now again, a lot of my students may have different colors, and if you do, that's all right. This is really an exercise for you to understand how color mixes together and how you can get different colors, because you know, you don't have to ask the teacher what color makes what color. You already have a chart with your personal set of colors, and then you know. Okay, so I'm adding ultramarine blue here. Might need a little bit more. And we have a green because we're mixing a yellow and blue. So you can see here, well, there are a variety of ways to get some different greens. And it's not always bad to have muted colors, muted greens, you know, blues and grays. Not everything has to be really super vibrant. Sometimes when you have some muted colors in a painting, it enables your more vibrant colors to really stand out. Okay, so we've hit our ultramarine blue. We have some more colors to hit, but right now I'm just going to clean off my palette just a little bit. Might have to dip my paper towel in some water here and do a little quick cleanup. The thing about this exercise is it really takes up a lot of space, so you might have to clean your palette up a little bit too. I got this little plastic thing. I think you can get them anywhere, Hobby Lobby, Dick Blick, and any number of places, but they're really inexpensive. If you're working small, then it's no big deal to use one of those. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to grab a paper towel here really quickly, and then we'll move to our next row. Hopefully you're all hanging in there still. Okay, so let's see. Our next row is phthalo blue, a very powerful phthalo blue. So we'll mix our phthalo blue and our Hansa yellow. This is a little bit on the warmer side of the spectrum, phthalo. You always want to kind of rinse off your brush, especially when you're dipping into yellow. So easy to change your yellow a little bit. And you can see, of course, this makes green, but it's a little bit different of a green. Little warmer, I think, because of this phthalo color. So again, I've got to go over to my phthalo row and add this on this side too. So much like we did earlier, I'm going to skip a row here and hit our cad red. So we're going to add a little cad red here and rinse off our brush and hit phthalo. So you've seen this. This is this kind of purpley color. Cad red. And this might have extra cad red in here. Might see if I might add a little bit more red back into that. That's a little bit too much. Guess it's really just going to be this kind of muted purple color. Cad red, phthalo blue. It's easy to get kind of lost in your place. Maybe just because I'm talking, but this is a pretty opaque feeling color. All right, and we'll keep moving along. This is kind of a long process, so some folks might find it a little too tedious, but again, it's definitely a good lesson to explore and to do for yourself. All right, so I'm hitting my quinacridone magenta here. Add a little water to this. And then I'm going to add my phthalo blue. Now I've got a little too much blue in there. Add a little more magenta here. And then we have this really striking, vibrant purple. I add a little bit of water. This is, it looks like dioxazine purple. That's really nice. And we'll move quinacridone magenta. Now I see I got off a square, so I was confused here. So I put my CAD red here instead of here. So I'll have to switch those probably. That's okay. We'll keep moving. All right. So next up is my burnt sienna. Now, if I'm moving too fast for you guys, please let me know in the comments. I can definitely slow her down. So now I'm going to mix burnt sienna with our phthalo blue. A little too much phthalo, might add a little bit more burnt sienna. And this is a very interesting color. I might zoom in a little bit so you can kind of see. So going down my phthalo blue line next to burnt sienna, this really feels very much like a green, and you can see it has some similar feeling as these colors that are around it. It's kind of fun to see them dry because there are variations of those colors too. I'm going to go back to burnt sienna, my burnt sienna slot, and put it up here too. Now, I had a color theory class in graduate school that was super intense, and we did a lot of color wheel, color theory with gouache paint and lots of mixing and that kind of thing. But it was a real tool that I really helped me understand color better. And I'm really grateful that I took the class, even though it was probably one of the more challenging classes as far as time goes. And my teacher was a real stickler for correct color mixing. But I'm really grateful I took it. Okay, so I'm taking my turquoise here. This is a phthalo turquoise, and I'm going to mix it with my phthalo blue here. I think I need to add a little more of my turquoise back in. This is very similar to the ultramarine blue color. Definitely a warm color. But still not the same as our turquoise over here. So you can really see the difference there. And I will put a swatch up here. So we're kicking off 2025 with a bang with color, a little bit of color mixing. Hopefully our friend Boyd was able to join us tonight too. And frankly, Boyd, if you are tuned in with us, you may decide to do this in a couple of segments so you can get to understanding color theory or color mixing, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm dipping into my CAD yellow medium, or what I call egg yolk yellow. Just going to add a little more water in there. Clean off my brush and dip into my phthalo. And we have a really nice green. This is a really beautiful green here. And you can kind of see a trend that starts happening as you have all these greens together and these purples together, these browns. Of course, I put it in the wrong space the last time, so I'm just going to have to correct this and put this in here. This isn't a big deal, right? Because I understand the colors, you know, kind of what makes them up, but it might be kind of a challenge if you wind up doing that yourself. So don't do what I did. Don't get them mixed up. But it can happen. Okay, so I have moved to my alizarin crimson here. Put a little water in here. Really beautiful red color. Hopefully you can see that on my screen here. It's kind of hard for me to tell, but hopefully you can see it all right. Now, actually, I'm going to zoom back in so you can kind of see. And I'm going to dip in my phthalo here. And then again, this creates a really beautiful purple color. And we'll put it here. So you can feel confident if you have a phthalo blue. You can see this is, you know, just minorly warmer than our quinacridone magenta purple here. But, you know, if you only have one blue with you, you can be confident that mixing it with alizarin crimson, whoops, I'm sorry, or magenta, you know, that's going to get you a nice purple. And I'll put it in this slot here. All right. And now we can move to our raw umber. Zoom in here a little bit. I appreciate that so you can kind of see it a little better. A nice raw umber. Might add a little water to this mixture. And then I will add phthalo blue. And we get another nice green. I might add just a little bit more raw umber. And another really great kind of green color. I'll move down here. Great. Next up, yellow ochre. And we'll hit it with a little bit of water. And then I will hit my phthalo blue. Now I can see already that there's a little bit extra phthalo in there, so I might add a little more yellow. Phthalo is such a powerful, phthalo blue is such a powerful color here. And then I can put this in the slot here for yellow ochre. and phthalo blue. And really, if you wanted to take this color chart in your kit, like if you go paint in plein air or something, you could, in theory, cut this in half and take, one with you and put one on the wall in your studio. So keep that in mind, because that might be an option. So I'll move this over. Now we are moving in Hansa Yellow territory. So this should be fun. So Hansa Yellow or Lemon Yellow. I need to add a little bit extra water here. This has got a little bit of blue in it, so it's already kind of green feeling. Here you can see this nice Hansa Yellow. I'm going to add a little bit of water to it, and what is up here? So we'll mix Hansa with Cad Yellow, medium, to see what kind of yellow we will get. I'm going to add a little more Hansa Yellow in there. And you can see, we'll see if there's much difference here. Feels a little less orange. Just toned back just a little bit. And we'll put it in this square as well. So you can mix your yellows together if you need to, if you need a certain shade. Next up, we'll hit some Cad Red. Add a little bit of water to this. And then I will hit in my Hansa Yellow, try to get quite a bit here. That might be a little bit much. We're going to have to dip into our red a little bit more. And we'll have a nice kind of orange color. And it's going to bleed into my other color. For a moment there, I forgot. So you might have to hit that with a little bit of a paper towel. Luckily, I still have this mixture, so I can go back over it later when this orange color dries. So I'll just keep that in mind as I do the other swatch up at the top. We have our Cad Red, Hansa Yellow. I'll just leave a little bit of space there so they don't bleed together. Now, I could tell you when I was a student, I didn't get very excited until I was in grad school about color mixing, but it is so important and so fascinating to see what colors mixed together create really beautiful colors. So don't skip this step if you can help it. Okay, next up, I have my alizarin crimson. So I'm going to get some of this beautiful red, clean off my brush, and get some Hansa Yellow. And you can see this is, a bit of a different kind of orangey red color. Leave a little space there because I keep forgetting to skip here, but that's okay. And we'll put it under our alizarin crimson over here. I know you're shocked that I didn't put opera pink in here. I'm a little shocked too, but when I got to thinking about it, I thought it might. It might be good to do some standard colors since we sometimes we use a lot, or I use a lot of these convenience colors. So we're doing something a little bit different. Well, hello, Carol. Thanks for tuning in with me tonight. I appreciate you being here, and I hope you are learning some new stuff. We're grateful that you're here. Thanks for being here. Okay, so this is quinacridone magenta. Might add a little bit of water here. And to clean off my brush, do a little cleaning off. Get some Hansa yellow. Mix the two together. This is a really pretty color. Might add a little bit more yellow to it. Feels, because magenta is not a red exactly, it can create kind of a rosy kind of orange here. I could probably even add a little more Hansa yellow in there. I feel like Hansa yellow, it's might be a little easy to overwhelm it a little bit. I think I actually might try to add a little bit more in here. There we go. It doesn't change this too much though. Okay. It's just fun. It'll get really fun when we get into the cad yellow area because you'll notice a big difference, I think. So we'll hit our raw umber. I'm going to try to make it so these don't commingle. Just add a little bit of water here. Raw umber plus Hansa yellow or lemon yellow. That's a lot of Hansa yellow. Might dip in a little bit more of our raw umber, but these are both kind of yellowish. And you can see the shade. I'm going to work really hard not to commingle these because I'm apparently keep forgetting to skip here. And we'll move up here, Hansa yellow to our raw umber here. So if you're new and you're tuning in and you're wondering what's going on, I have my list of colors going this way and my list of colors going this way, and we're mixing them together. On both sides. And you can use a waterproof pen, or as I've used pencil. I'm going to fill this one back in. This is my two yellows that were mixed together. There we go. Okay, so I think I am going to actually skip because I won't forget. So we'll skip our burnt sienna. We'll move down to yellow ochre. And get a little water here. Maybe drop a little more water in that paint there. And then let's get some Hansa yellow going. Now, for my students who tune in every week and that are part of my private class, we will exceed an hour here. So you're welcome to continue on with me, which I would love. Or if it is past your bedtime already and you're on the East Coast, like some students, you may choose to, tune into this later as well. So this will be up on my channel for probably a week, and then it'll just be available in the portal. But we'll definitely be going over our time limit tonight, so I apologize for that. It can be kind of a long process to do this, but it's definitely worthwhile. Okay. Now, I might move into my burnt sienna here, just so I can finish these 2 rows. So we'll put a little burnt sienna up here in the corner. Well, great. I hope that you enjoy this, Carol. It's definitely useful as we move forward in our watercolor painting or any kind of painting. We understand what colors make what colors, and you'll find that you might like a combination particularly well versus another one. So I hope that you're able to make your own chart too, and you enjoy it as well. And I appreciate you being here and tuning in. Okay, so burnt sienna and dipping into my Hansa yellow. And we'll see what kind of color we get here. And try not to get too close to any one wet swatch. I'll go back up here. All right, one more in this color, in our Hansa yellow color, and I'm going to switch this out. I'm going to have to clean my palettes here pretty soon. So I'll put a little bit of yellow in here. Hansa yellow, lemon yellow. And thanks for subscribing, Carol. I appreciate you. I appreciate your subscription. Okay, I'm going to hit my phthalo turquoise. And you can see this is a really vibrant green color. In part, I think, because of our phthalo turquoise. And so we'll round out our turquoise here. Not getting too close to this swatch next to me. All right. Whew. All right. Okay, so I'm going to quickly clean out my palettes. Just kind of try to wipe them out here and see how good we do here. But if you have questions, now is a good time to throw them in chat. Aren't you glad we didn't do more colors? It's been super cold here in Idaho. I do think it warmed up a little bit today, but I imagine it's cold everywhere right now. Even in Las Vegas, I believe it's a little chilly down there. Oops. So definitely feels like winter. although we don't have a lot of snow. So I appreciate your patience as we're changing things up here and cleaning up. And if you are a painter, what kind of palette do you like to use? Let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to know. You may also find at this juncture that you might want to also clean out your water. I'm going to see if I can power through here, but definitely might not be a bad time to do that. All right. Thanks for hanging in there, all. Okay. So now we're going into Cad Yellow medium here, which Cad Yellow medium is just a really nice punchy color. And we will use it with our Cad Red medium. So I'll mix these two together. Of course, they're going to give us a solid orange. So Cad Yellow. Might need to add a little bit of water to this mixture. We'll get a really nice orange color. And depending on the amount of yellow or the amount of red, you know, you're going to lean a little closer to a red orange or a yellow orange. All right. So that is nice. Now I'm going to skip like I need to, so my colors don't commingle. So we're going to go down to a magenta color, our quinacridone magenta, and getting another paper towel here. Quinacridone magenta. That's a really pretty pinky color. Add a little bit of water here. And then we'll get a little of our yellow. Really pretty color. And quinacridone. Here we go. Again, I'm skipping around so I can put color in these squares here so they don't bleed into one another. So Cad Yellow, quinacridone magenta. It's easy to kind of lose your place. Well, easy for me. So, you know, and I'm thinking about Jan here. She may or may not be on with us tonight, but Jan, it has a lot of beautiful metallic colors. So this might be something that you'd want to do with your metallic colors as well. Just to see how they react with other colors. I highly recommend that. So check that out when you get a chance. I'm actually going to skip down here to yellow ochre just because I have some wet squares here and I don't want them to mix. So we'll do yellow ochre in our Cad Yellow medium, which of course we're just going to have another yellow color. But if you're looking, right now I'm doing a painting of a cowgirl that has a yellow shirt on it, and I need variations of yellow color. And so this is a way that you can change that yellow. If you're doing a painting where you need to have some variations, this might be a way for you to do that. And so I need to go over here to my yellow ochre color, my Cad Yellow medium. Got some hair in there. All right. So I'll clean off my brush here. So Carol is joining us from Alberta, Canada. All right. Welcome. I'd love to see, we have our friends from Canada up there. You might, I don't know, Carol, are you familiar with Beam watercolor paints? I think now Beam creates a variety of other kinds of paints, but the metallic, the best metallic gold paint I've ever come across is from Beam Paints. So my friend Jan has some of those Beam paints, and she's got some great metallic colors. Okay, so I think maybe we will pop up to alizarin crimson, or deep rich red here. Add a little bit of water to this. I'm going to clean off my brush, and I'm going to hit my medium yellow, CAD medium yellow here. And we'll see what this looks like here. Now it's pretty similar to our magenta, but I bet if I put a little more magenta mixture in there, it would feel a little bit different. But we'll go to alizarin crimson, CAD yellow medium. Okay. All right. So yeah, it's on your wish list. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you got to get the gold. It's really the best, I think. Now, Jan might feel differently. She could probably comment if she's still hanging out, what she thinks about that, if she has an opinion about that. But yeah, they're great. And I love supporting Indigenous artists. I think that's awesome. I love their business, and they're non-toxic paints. So okay, so I'm moving around again. We're down here at turquoise, and we're going to hit CAD yellow medium. Again, we have another really nice green. And I'm just trying to make sure I don't get out of where I'm supposed to be here. Cobalt teal is also a great color that creates really vibrant greens. So if you don't have turquoise, cobalt teal might be a good color to have. And if you can hear Chewy in the background, oh, there he goes. He's got a big sigh there. He's hanging out here with us tonight, hanging out like a good dog, chilling. And we've been really lucky he hasn't started barking yet, so that's really good. Okay, so I'm going to hit burnt sienna. A little bit of this burnt sienna. This is a great color to have on any kind of color palette. I use it in my oil paint when I'm painting horses. And it's just handy. We'll mix it with our CAD yellow. I might have got a little much yellow in there. We'll add a little more burnt sienna in. Okay. And we can just put this in this block. It's very similar to the colors around it, which just goes to show you have options. So as you're making your chart, you can kind of look around. Maybe you don't have burnt sienna, but you might have yellow ochre or something, or raw umber. Then you can know what you can use. Okay. All right, boy, one more in our row here, which is raw umber. Raw umber in cad yellow. Medium here, so I'll just use the other part of this. Add a little water. Clean off my brush here and hit my cad yellow. Again, very similar to these colors around it. All right. Okay. We're like halfway there, guys. How you doing? All right. So Carol says that she has Schminke Sennelier, Daniel Smith, M. Graham, and a few Paul Rubin. Hey, there you go. You're slowly collecting them all, she says. That's great. That's part of the condition of being an artist, or artsy, if you will, is art supplies. Yes. You know, Daniel Smith, I have a few Daniel Smith. I don't have any Schminke colors, but, or Sennelier, but it's definitely a condition. I use a lot of core watercolor paints. I really like the integrity of the pigment. But I think all, you know, different watercolor companies, you know, mostly they have pretty much the same ingredients, I think, but it's nice to have fine quality paints because it really does kind of make a difference, I feel like. But maybe not as much as, say, paper makes a difference, because paper is pretty important for watercolor. And if you're struggling in watercolor, I think take a look at your paper because it might make all the difference for you. Yeah, they are nice. They're just different. I feel like Core's watercolor, their pigment integrity is the same because sometimes the color will change if it, you know, as it dries, but they stay pretty true, I feel like. So, but, you know, everybody has their favorites. I've tried Michael Harding. I have a few Michael Harding watercolor paints, and I really like them too. But, you know, paint collecting gets expensive. So, you know, it's just one of those things. Oftentimes with my students, you know, I'm telling them to use what they have because it really does get kind of expensive. All right. Okay. So let's move into our cad red. We'll mix up our cad red this go around. Maybe I'll mix up a couple trays with our cad red here. Might get us moving right along here. Add a little bit of water. Cad red medium. Let's do alizarin crimson in one. So mix this with a bit alizarin crimson. Get a nice cross between the two. We'll make that alizarin crimson a little more opaque. So one is very transparent, one's a little more opaque here. So that's a nice way to use color mixing as well. All right. So very true. Very true. Whoops. There we go. That was a quick one. We'll put it back up on the screen. Yep, it is addictive. Art supplies are addictive, especially if you're spanning, different types of paint, like oil paint or, colored pencils, what have you. If you are a student of art where you had to go to college or, take a lot of workshops, you wind up with a ton of supplies. Okay, so we're going to skip, and we're going to skip down to raw umber here, and we're going to mix raw umber with our cad red here. Now this red's really quite powerful. So let's see here. But this kind of color, it kind of reminds me of my mom. She had a really kind of a Southwest feeling colored kitchen in her last home. And this really makes me think of that a little bit. Okay, cad red, raw umber. Okay. Cleaning off my brush here, and we're going to skip another one. So we'll skip down to yellow ochre, which is this earthy yellow color, and mix it in. I add just a little bit more. And you can see the difference between these two colors here and what's in our row of yellow ochre. Ultimately, you get a really good picture of, your specific colors too. Yellow ochre here, cad red. And like I said earlier, you could just do half of one of these. It gets a little confusing when you do half, but you can always cut this kind of along this diagonal here and use this in your toolkit. So you go plein air painting, or you paint out in the field, or when you're waiting in a lobby somewhere, what have you. You have two different color charts with your specific colors. We have kind of some standard colors here tonight, but you might have all kinds of different colors that you want to make a chart from. They're just super handy. Okay, I'm going to move down to turquoise here. This should be an interesting color. I think I might have got a little extra turquoise in there, so I'll have to add some red back in there. Add red. Yeah, this is a really interesting color. I'll try not to commingle here. It's kind of a greeny color. This would be really beautiful as it dries because it's got some granulation happening here. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous color. Cad red, phthalo turquoise. All right. Oh, yeah, I love this color. These two colors together. They'll be really pretty. Zoom in a little bit. I'm not sure if the screen will really share what I'm seeing, but I hope so. Especially when it dries, it will. So I have two spots to fill. So we need to go into our quinacridone magenta here. Now this is a transparent color. Clean off my brush and hit my cad red, medium. It's kind of like, it almost feels like, almost really looks kind of like quinacridone coral. This is a really pretty color too. And in the sea of red colors here, Probably just appears to be red, but it's really a beautiful kind of rosy color. And it makes me wonder if, you know, I think I probably just said this, but quinacridone coral, if it's mixed of these two colors, it's very similar. Daniel Smith makes a really beautiful quinacridone coral that I like, and so does Michael Harding. So I don't always like using Cad Red for whatever reason, maybe because I didn't really use it as much in school, but I do like Quin Coral. It's really nice. Okay, so our last one is Burnt Sienna. So our kind of browny orange color here, very earthy. And we will hit our Cad Red. And another really nice, pretty color. This might be a little closer to my mom's kitchen color. Just really warm. Which, you know, a kitchen should be warm and inviting, right? Okay. Thank you, Carol. Thanks for hanging out and checking out our video. Have a good evening. Now, if you've hung in here this far, you're a trooper, but I understand if you have to go, it's probably late where a lot of people are. Okay, so now we're in our alizarin red or alizarin crimson row here. So we're making headway. I'm going to clean up my receptacles here. We'll just use this, continue to use this little one. And I'm sorry for Chewy snoring in the background. He's had a long day today. But he's definitely being good, so. Okay. So I'm going to put alizarin crimson in a few of these. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. Let's see, 4. Well, wait, I guess we've got 5. Okay. So we're probably good here. Add a little water. Okay. So next, I'm going to mix that with our quinacridone magenta. We've done this, I think, already, but that's okay. Really beautiful rosy color. Very rich red color. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. We're going to skip down to burnt sienna because we don't want our colors to mix. So just add a little burnt sienna here. This alizarin crimson can be a pretty powerful color as well. Okay, and we'll go over to our burnt sienna over here, alizarin crimson. It'll feel like we're moving a lot faster, I think, now. All right. And we'll move down to our turquoise color, our phthalo turquoise, and mix it in. Another gorgeous, gorgeous color. This can be a dark, kind of looks like a dark blue a little bit, or a gray. I'm going to add a little more water here, and I'm going to add a little more alizarin crimson. Yeah, it's a dance. Okay, so alizarin crimson, turquoise. Yeah, this is a great color. This is very similar to, I use Soda Light a lot, so it's very similar to that color. Just kind of a dark, almost charcoaly color. This is a great one to note if you're needing a dark tone, but you don't want to use black. Maybe you're a purist, you don't use black. Well, this would be a great color, maybe a great alternative to Payne's Gray as well. All right, and we will hit this. We'll bump up here to our raw umber and alizarin crimson. Kind of another one of these earthy orangey colors. Could probably even put a little more raw umber in here, but we're going to roll with it this evening. Raw umber. All right. And lastly, in our red color, we're going to hit this with yellow ochre. So alizarin crimson, yellow ochre. Might have put a little too much yellow ochre in there. There we go. Now you can paint neater if you want to. You don't have to be messy like me, but you can see here this really beautiful turquoise color mixed with alizarin crimson right here. This is a really beautiful gray color. So, but you can see all of the variations of our colors and how there are subtle nuances and differences in those colors. All right, so I think now we can move to our quinacridone magenta and finish off those rows. I'll just clean up a few of these. Moving right along, friends. I appreciate you hanging in there. All right, quinacridone magenta. Looks like I have 4 of those left. Okay. So we'll just add this quinacridone magenta to 4 of these. Add a little bit more water. And we'll start at the bottom just because of drying times here. So we'll start with our turquoise. That might be a little much turquoise, but you can see how it's kind of turned to this blue color here. Let's add a little more magenta in here. We have a nice kind of a blue purple. Now this is appearing pretty dark here, but it will lighten up like our gray did, I think. Pretty purple. Quinacridone magenta over to turquoise. phthalo turquoise. Sometimes I think color combinations can be a little surprising. So I hope you have fun with it. We will go to burnt sienna. Add that to our magenta color. Again, another kind of corally color. Really pretty. We'll go back over to our burnt sienna. We're getting super close to being done, so we're almost there. All right. So now we'll hit it with our raw umber. My raw umber color, I'll go and put this in our magenta. This is kind of a really great color too. You can kind of see, I think, there's just slight variations between these two colors, but both really pretty. Both make me think that you could use these for flowers. Any of these colors. So raw umber, raw umber. All right, and now we'll hit it with yellow ochre. And our yellow ochre here. Now, I know I've done this swatch class with my in-person class before, but I don't think I've ever done this one online. And it really is a good practice, as I've mentioned already this evening. So I hope my students are able to really use it and find that they enjoy it. Enjoy the process. Okay, so we're going down raw umber lane. We have 3 to do in raw umber, so we'll hit this with burnt sienna. And burnt sienna and raw umber over here. All right. Raw umber and yellow ochre. So there's a little yellow ochre. Umber. Try to be careful here so these don't. Oh, I totally messed that one up. Let's see. They're mixing. Just get another paper towel. And lift that color. And we'll just put this over raw umber and yellow ochre. We'll put it over here. Careful not to touch any other swatch. And I can add it in here. Okay. Oh, we're so close. Okay, so we're going to do our raw umber with our turquoise. Add a little more water to that raw umber. And touch into our turquoise. We're going to have a nice green. I'm going to add a little more of our raw umber in here. And we have a really nice green. You never knew you had so many options for colors. Now, if you have questions about this, the structure or this class or color mixing in general, go ahead and leave those questions in the comments below. I'd love to answer your questions. Ultimately, you can make a lot of colors with just 3 colors, but it's kind of fun to see all the variations of color that you can get. So next we're going to mix yellow ochre with burnt sienna. We're so close. Here, burnt sienna. Yellow ochre, burnt sienna. All very similar here. Depends on how much paint you're using, how much water you're using. But they're all very similar here with slight variations. And then we'll mix our burnt sienna with our turquoise. A little bit of burnt sienna. I'm going to add a little water to that. And dip into our turquoise here. You be the judge of what kind of color this reminds you of, but we kind of have this mix between this brownie and green color. Be nice in a landscape. All right, we are down to our last color mixture. And we are going to use turquoise and yellow ochre. Let's see, did I just do, yeah, turquoise and yellow ochre. There's a little yellow ochre. And dip into my phthalo turquoise. And get another pretty green. And there you have a completed color chart with some very basic colors that you can put into your color arsenal. I'll zoom in here a little bit so you can kind of see a little bit of a close-up and see some of the variation. Ultimately, you're trying to do 50% of one color and 50% of another to have a good idea of what kind of color you have. You can cut this out and put it in your studio. You could cut it along the middle here, take one with you, or put one on your studio wall. But this is a great way to know what your colors make, what kind of colors they make. And it's a great way to really understand what you can make and plan some paintings. So I really appreciate you being here for the long haul, especially you, Jean, because I know what time it is where you are. So you're a trooper. Thanks for hanging in there. And what's great is my students will have this as a reference, and you can continue to reference this every year. or all year long. I mean, and this really is to kick us off, you know, to do something different so you can plan some paintings and explore color. So if you have questions and you're new here, leave them in the comments and I'll answer them as I can. Maybe tonight if you're quick, and maybe later. Hey, thank you so very much, Gray. I appreciate you being here, and hopefully we see you again on the channel. And Jean's laughing. You're a trooper, I'm telling you. I really appreciate it, guys. Again, leave questions if you need to. As far as my students go, I'll have this video up in our portal sometime this week, probably this weekend, honestly. And I'll have your materials for our private class next week. We're painting bottles, and glass is kind of fun to explore. So I look forward to seeing y'all in person. Thanks for being here, and I will see you later. Stay creative out there.